Hello, and welcome back to Beyond Resistance Pod, where we share hard-won insights to build blue power in red communities and start winning. I'm Sarah Schulz.
And I'm Jennifer Austin.
Hey, Jennifer, we've got a great guest coming up on the pod, and but before we get started, I'd love to hear what you're fired up about these days.
Okay. So we're recording on the 12th, and we haven't done these fired ups in a little while because we've been having candidates, so we decided we had to come back and do them
Yeah,
again.
so it's
So I've like
January
got a
12th. January 12th. Yeah,
January 12th. What did I say it was?
you said the 12th, but you didn't say
Oh,
January.
January.
So,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
I've been known to say like the wrong month, whatever. Um, anyway, so like I've had like these whole like, oh, this has me fired up, this has me fired up. So there's a lot of things kind of in the back of my mind, but one of the things that I'm kind of fired up about, and it's something I've been thinking about, something I've been talking about, but I'm also hearing candidates and pundits and people, leaders in the community talk about this. And so it's like I think it's a very core part of what we need to do to fix this country. And the fact that so many other people are talking about it, I have no delusions that I have led this charge, but I will say I was talking about it before them. But I doubt that they even heard me. So the point is, we've talked about it. There's different words that we can use: community care, collectivism, collective community. Like this idea that humanity is a team sport. We don't live on this planet by ourselves. Yeah, I'm sure there's a few people out there that are what's the Unabomber guy out in the woods somewhere, but for the most part,
And look
we
how
all
well that
live.
worked out.
Yeah, and that worked out so well. We're a community, whether you can start nuclear with the people you live with in your house, and then your friendships, and then your organizations, and your work, and your city, and your state, and your country. And we are a big collective community. And I feel like we need to get back to that and really talk about that and think about that and make that such an ingrained part of our culture that this whole bully, strongman, go it alone, just this whole alpha male toxic bullshit is just left by the wayside
Yeah.
because it doesn't work. It just
Yeah.
doesn't work. And that's the thing I'm fired up about, and that I really want to focus on and bring to our community and everybody else's.
I love that. It so I know you've been talking about this for a bit now, and what kind of gets triggered in my head is the idea of mutual aid and how
Mm-hmm.
that's a little bit different than what you're talking about. So like maybe it's just my own definition in my own little mind, but to me mutual aid is like uh in place of something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this idea that like our fucking federal government is not going to do what
Yeah.
it's supposed to do to support its citizens, be it healthcare or childcare or whatever, or what keep us safe on the streets or whatever that is. And so we have to create that locally, right? That's like to
Mm-hmm.
me, that's kind of mutual aid, right? And it's kind of focuses first on people who are the most vulnerable, making sure that our trans friends and our friends of color and all of those folks, are safe first and then expanding out from there. But it's really like in in spite of what should be
Mm-hmm.
provided, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of talk about mutual aid that sort of has come up, particularly after the last inauguration, and particularly after the like Doge like cuts and all of that stuff. But I think what you're talking about is a little different than mutual aid. Would
It
you say so?
is.
Yeah.
It is. I would say to me, like the mutual aid part is where we that have this idea of collective community step in to help our neighbors, our friends, whatever. Like mutual aid is the vehicle by which we help instill collective community as a
Mhm.
value. Like I want it to be a value of this country. And then I want the federal government to do the things that I think it should do
Yeah. Yeah.
to help everybody. But, like I think mutual aid is the action and collective community is the mindset that I want to bring to our culture.
Okay. Okay. See, what I was thinking about is like mutual aid is kind of like a different level, but like collectivism is, and like community care is regardless of what the federal
Yes.
government is doing.
Yep.
Like we need to,
Mm-hmm.
be doing that. It's like that Facebook group that I created a couple of months ago
Mm-hmm.
around community care locally here in Midland,
Yep.
so that if you needed a ride to somewhere or, advice on something, then you had a
Mm-hmm.
trusted group of folks
Yeah.
to go to. Yeah.
And I do want to just point out that community care, mutual aid, this stuff has been going on forever, especially in hard hit communities, communities like Black and Brown communities. They're out there looking out for each other, for their neighbors, for their area.
Yeah.
Indigenous people, they're out there making sure that mutual aid and collective community is happening because the federal government has left them by the wayside.
Yeah. And it's not in conflict with the idea of self-care, right?
Hmm.
It's in tandem with the idea of self-care.
Yes.
And so, because we're both, we're community-based creatures. That's just
Hmm.
who we are. It's who humans are. We exist together in community. And we also need to take care of ourselves, and
Hmm.
the ways that we balance those things is
Yes.
important and worth being fired up about. So thanks for bringing that. So I've got a less happy thing to be fired up about, just because this is where my head is. But I am, everything that's going on in Minneapolis is worth
Hmm.
being fired up about. The thing that is echoing in my mind when I put my head on my pillow is that man saying the words fucking bitch after shooting a woman in
Yeah.
the face.
Yep.
And it's like not just the words that he says, it's the tone of his voice when he says it. And it's so familiar. It's
Hmm.
just so familiar. And nearly every woman in the country recognizes those words or something like them in that tone of voice. And we've heard them on the sidewalk when we ignore somebody catcalling. We've heard them, you know, in like museums when somebody asks us to smile and we don't, like when
Hmm.
we turn down advances from somebody at a bar. It's just this idea that like women are here to like do the bidding of men, and when they dare to do something different, then they are basically disposable. And that's literally
Hmm.
how it played out to me in Milwaukee, in Minneapolis. And uh I just can't stop being fired up about that.
Yeah.
It's
That is
just,
so on
yeah,
my mind too.
yeah,
And I just like I can hear the whole, obviously we've seen the video from all angles. We can easily put it together, but I can like, so like the video that he took with his phone, and he was walking around the car doing his
mhm,
I'm an intimidating man thing,
yep,
and he was using his phone to record with his right hand. I
yeah,
believe it was I'm assuming it was his dominant hand. I'm not going to say right or left, but I think it was his right hand.
yep, that's
He
what I heard.
switched hands. He switched his phone to a different hand, which I believe was his left hand, and pulled out a gun. Like you
Yeah,
don't see that, but you know that's what he did.
yep,
And so he had his gun out before he ever got in front of her vehicle. He knew what he was doing. And so like she's trying to pull around him, and I'm guessing cuz he was not giving her space to leave,
yep,
and she bumped him
yep,
with the car. Not ran him over, not
nope,
tried to hit him, not tried to kill him.
yeah.
She bumped him with her car, and he was
If she
pissed
even bumped
off.
him,
If
if there
she
was
even
even
bumped him.
actual contact, but
Yeah.
maybe there wasn't even, maybe he just like
Hmm.
felt bumped or
And
something.
he was pissed off, and he shot
Yep,
her.
yep, absolutely. He switched hands to put his gun in his dominant hand and kept fucking recording.
Yeah.
Like, because he knew that he would, whatever decision he made in the next several seconds, he'd have no accountability for.
Hmm.
And it wasn't that his life was threatened. It was that his masculinity was threatened and his
Yep.
authority and his poor little ego. And that is exactly what happened. And it is confirmed when the next thing you hear is him saying those words to her in
Mm-hmm.
that tone of voice.
Yep.
Um,
It's not, oh my gosh, I just fired my weapon
yes.
at a woman who was literally doing nothing but annoying me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he felt justified in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like what's happened since with the federal government, with any amount of accountability, with any kind of idea of an investigation, confirms that for him. Like
Oh, yeah.
that
Yeah.
nothing will happen. Nothing will
Well,
happen.
nothing will happen for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Statute of limitations isn't up.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure this will play out for a very long time, and we're not going to forget about it.
No. And we
This
haven't
is
forgot
one
about
of
the
those
Epstein
things.
files either, in case anybody's wondering. I forget about nothing.
That's the other thing that I fired up about related to, and it's all kind of connected, is this idea of compliance. So like if she had if she had complied and gotten out of her car, then she wouldn't be dead. As if like the punishment for non-compliance is death. And
They
like
had no jurisdiction over her.
no,
They had
they
they
had
had
no
no
right to
reason.
say to tell her to get out of her car, to try to open her car door.
Yeah.
Like
Everything they did from the minute they stopped that car was escalation. They escalated, not her. Not a single thing did
absolutely.
she do.
And when you see her like last words, basically, she looks at the camera and she's basically says very calmly, "I'm not mad at you."
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
it's the whole thing is out. It's just outrageous. It's just outrageous. And then the hypocrisy of saying that she should have complied with this order that was illegal. And like if you can list out all of the orders from judges and other entities that our federal like leaders and whatever are totally ignoring, but the punishment
Mm-hmm.
for death of not the punishment for not getting out of the car
Mm-hmm.
is death. But the
Yeah.
punishment for like not sharing the Epstein files is ignoring that. The
Yeah.
punishment for, all of the things that have been going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I'm just
The whole
incensed.
comply or die thing, I'm just so pissed. I'm so pissed about the you fucking bitch. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the compliance argument is the number one that I see in social media. Like with any post,
Yep.
like we
I
had posts
usually
about our vigil, like posts about like stuff that I've posted. If it's a like a negative response to that, it's always
mm-hmm.
people saying she should have complied, or there's some compliance element
Yeah.
to it.
And all the Nazis probably said that too, is what I
Uh-huh.
like to say if
Yeah,
I get a chance to. Like,
yeah,
I'm sure that's like, I really wish people would understand that the Nazis weren't Nazis until they were Nazis. Like,
exactly.
the word Nazi didn't mean in the 1930s what it means now, because they hadn't done all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Anyhow, we're pretty fired up. Lots to be fired up about, both good and bad,
Yep.
in the world. And we're excited for all of our listeners to continue listening to our wonderful interview with a candidate for state senate, which is coming up next.
Michigan Senate, U.S. Senate.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
U.S. Senate.
We've also interviewed a
Michigan
lot of
State.
state Senate candidates lately.
You're trying to
So,
keep all
hey.
the candidates in order. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But yes, a candidate for the U.S. Senate from the state of Michigan, which was a fabulous conversation that you're going to want to stick around for. So, and we'll see you on the other side, and we'll see you next time on the pod.
Hello there. We have with us today a special guest. This is Rachel Howard. She is a 14-year combat veteran who served as a combat medic in Iraq and Afghanistan with the Michigan Army National Guard. She is one of 500 women in the United States that has received the Purple Heart. She is a healthcare leader she's been an EMT in Metro Detroit, and she's also been a research leader for both the Department of Veterans Affairs and for Henry Ford Health, with peer-reviewed research in healthcare efficiency and respiratory effects on veterans. She has a master's in both social work and public health. She is a mom of 4 boys, which I can totally relate to because I am also. And she is also a Democratic candidate for the Michigan U.S. Senate seat that will be up in the 2026 November election, that will be vacated by Gary Peters. So, Rachel Howard, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome.
Yeah, we were really glad to have you. Is there anything that I didn't list in that bio that you think our listeners and the voters should know about you?
I think you summed up the highlights pretty well. No, I think you did great.
Okay,
So,
good.
well, Rachel, thank you so much for running. It's so critical that amazing folks out here in our state step up to lead in the way that that you've done and modeled for so many of us. And I'm always curious about kind of what's behind that. What's the motivation that kind of is driving you to run for the U.S. Senate and to represent Michigan?
The motivation, there's a lot actually, but when you really kind of distill it down to the essence of why I chose to do this, I have spent years just getting more frustrated and more angry that I felt we were not being productive the way we were supposed to. We were moving away from what truly the United States kind of stood for. And I did not see that improving. Every year I waited for it to get better, and every year I was more and more disappointed. So it finally kind of reached a head this past year with the 2024 elections and some of the subsequent actions that were taken. And it really got to the point where I said, when is the adult in the room going to show up? And it wasn't happening. So I kind of realized that if it was important enough to me to be as upset about it as I was, it's important enough to do something about it. So I said, if the adult won't show up, then I will. And I will do what I can to try to really push this back to where it's supposed to be. So I made the decision to leave my career at the VA and take up this campaign to really see if we can kind of bring progress back and put us back on the path to really what the United States is supposed to be.
Just a quick follow-up question. So I didn't realize this about you, Rachel, that you left your position to do this full time. Can you talk a little bit about that decision?
And that was that was the most difficult. It wasn't necessarily the idea of running that was the most difficult. It was leaving my work. So because of the Hatch Act, you cannot be federally employed and run for a partisan office.
Yeah.
So I had to make the decision, do I want to continue with my work at the VA, or do I want to run for this? And I love what I did. I loved my team. I loved my patients. The work that we were doing was incredibly important to me. So leaving was a really, really hard choice. I was fortunate that I have an incredible support system. My husband was behind me 100%. And my team at the VA was very supportive. This is what I felt I needed to do. They were behind me. So I did. I had to make that choice that right now, this is where I was being called.
That's a heavy choice. I really appreciate that. I can remember when I was deciding to run for Michigan House, kind of making a similar decision. And it was also with this knowledge that like I don't know how to do anything half-assed. Like I don't know how to half do anything. So I have to be full ass in one or the other. I can't do half and half.
Can't do both.
Because I wanted to make sure like I was going to be able to sleep at the end of this, knowing that I'd given everything possible to it.
Yeah.
So, and those are big decisions to make, and I really deeply appreciate that for you for doing.
They're hard.
Yeah.
We are all full ass badass women.
You do what you have to do.
Yes, and like just saying like Sarah was saying, I'm the same way. I get obsessive about things. I'm not.
It's true. She does.
I do to the point where it's like, does she really need to do that? Probably not, but she has to finish it, or she's never going to be able to sleep at night. And I also love how refreshing in this current administration, someone who wants to follow the Hatch Act. I'm
Yeah,
just
no
blown
doubt.
away.
I am very much a believer in is it doesn't matter what anyone did before me. It doesn't matter what anyone's
Yeah.
doing beside me.
Hmm.
I am in control of my actions only, and I will follow my own moral compass, which
Yes.
means the law.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many things that I think we need to change about our government, the corporations and the corruption and the way our elections are funded, like all the stuff. We don't have to get into it all, but so there's a lot of change that needs to happen to the government, but we have to bring some integrity back, some rule following, or get rid of the rules we're not going to follow, or whatever. Like there's change that needs to be made, but then there's also that moral compass that needs to be restored to politics in general.
Absolutely.
And that's not just a Trump era thing either. I
No,
mean,
not at
he
all.
just does it all out there for everybody to see. It doesn't mean some of that stuff wasn't happening before.
Exactly.
So,
It's uncovered a very ugly truth that has existed for a long time.
mhm.
But on my better days, when I'm in a more positive mindset, I look at it as opportunity.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to put things better than we left them or than we found them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and there are so many just great candidates out there that are running for office right now, similar to like what you're saying. Like I saw that things were not right, and rather than bitch about it, I got up and decided to run for office. It's and I love that, and I hope that we get as many of that type of person into office as we possibly can.
I'm thrilled that I see more crowded fields
Hmm.
because I am truly a believer that the more candidates you have, the more choice people have. And we will
Hmm.
find people that more closely align with what voters want and what we need. So seeing some of these more crowded fields is, I mean, truly, it's heartening to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. And speaking of politicians and the way they are, um, you have said, like you've said it on your website, and I'm pretty sure I've heard you say it at events as well. You are not a politician. Um, and like I've also noticed on your website that you use purple colors on your website to accent it. So can you tell me like what does that mean to you not being a politician? And is there some significance to those purple colors that you used?
Oh, of course there is.
I I
So
assumed there was.
there is. So that's the easy one. So I'll start with that. The purple really has kind of a dual purpose. One is that I am a Purple Heart recipient. And to me, that is, I mean, it's truly a part of who I am. I think it is an incredibly important part of who I am and the experiences I've had and has shaped how I view things. So that kind of that purple color is important to me just as a person, but also a reflection of our politics. And while we tend to be kind of very binary in many things right now, just due to the nature, the climate that we're in, I really I really wish that we could get back to being able to see from others' viewpoint, to talk about things, to meet in the middle where we actually have a lot of commonalities and recognize those and really build on the similarities that we have. So that kind of purple is also a representation. Michigan is a very mixed state in that regard.
Hmm.
And we need everybody at the table. It it never works well when you live in an echo chamber.
Hmm.
And I always believe that anything that I feel strongly about kind of needs to be stress test. You run it by somebody who you know doesn't agree with you
Yeah.
because they're going to find faults and flaws within it that are going to help you refine and come out with a better product. So we need that to a certain extent. The other
Yeah.
part, politicians. I'm not one. I'm proud of that. I'm actually really proud of that. It's I'm running for a political seat, but I'm doing it not because I necessarily want to engage in a political process or find a career as a politician. It's because I actually think we need to be moving the other direction. And having people that have truly lived these experiences, that have very diverse upbringings, that have a diverse job experiences and educations, and really bringing that viewpoint into some of our policies. It Yes, business administration is important in many ways, but do I necessarily think that people with an MBA should be deciding all of my healthcare decisions or environmental policies? No,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to people that have had that experience, that have been boots on ground. They know that nuance, and I want their insight. I want their input. Uh, so I think it's actually a really important thing that I don't have that. What I do have is life experience. So it is something that I do try to emphasize.
Mm-hmm. You want to go to Washington to do something, not to be something.
That's exactly it. I very much would like to go do what I can do to the best of my ability. And when the time is right, say, I've done what I can, it's time for me to step back and allow a new voice with new experience and new perspective to come in, and I will go back to my old life. I've done my service, it's time to leave, and for someone else to kind of take that on,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to that just kind of stagnant mentality that is not keeping up with who we are as a nation.
Yeah. Well, and speaking with kind of carrying that theme of different experiences, as we've mentioned already, you so there's lots of people with different experiences, but you as a human being also have lots of different experiences, and you wear a lot of hats. Um, as Jennifer mentioned, combat vet, medic, researcher, mom, candidate now. And I didn't say politician, I said candidate. I'm wondering if you could just reflect a little bit for us about how this like tapestry of experiences that you personally hold might have prepared you for the US Senate, and how have those experiences informed your stance on issues and the things that are important to you and to the voters in Michigan.
That's I think that that's actually one of the most important things is the experiences that I've had and how they've shaped how I view things. You look at essentially my entire adult life. I started as an EMT, and then I went on to join the military not long after that. So pretty much the last 25 years now, I have been involved in a service of some sort where it's not about you. It's about your community. It's about a mission. It's about being part of a team that is 100% dependent on each other. You cannot function without trusting the people around you and working well with them. Uh, but that is also a very difficult place to be. There's a lot of differences of opinions and personality types. And really creating these teams that are able to mesh well enough to function effectively to get a mission done is it's an experience that you really can't get any other way other than to do it. And I've got 25 years at this point of building those teams
Mm.
uh, with positions that have required me to look at very, very complex environments where it's not a single small problem or a single small factor, but a multitude of factors that you really have to dig into. It's not simple.
Mhm.
And kind of play out how can this scenario go with different actions that we could take. Uh, that is something that I think really is ideal in a Senate candidate that's able to look at a much larger picture and be far more deliberative. But also there's a heaviness to it in the sense that leadership is not easy. Leadership can be a very lonely place. You are never going to be liked by everybody. You have to make incredibly difficult decisions that you have to live with. And sometimes those decisions suck. Sometimes you don't like any of the outcomes. And you have to be able to make a choice and live with that choice. I think one of the things we face today is that oftentimes we kind of want to punt the choice down the road,
Mhm.
or we don't want to make it because we are uncomfortable or because we don't like the outcomes possibilities. But that's what this is. That's what leadership is. And that is something that I have become comfortable with, as weighty as it may be. Um, it's important to be able to accept that and to be able to work with it. Um, as far as the other hats, I mean, I have 4 boys. between the ages of almost 3, he'll be 3 this month, and 18.
Um,
There is there's a lot going on there.
but
Oh yeah.
There's a lot. And I will say I am incredibly thankful for that experience as both a stepmom and a mom of toddlers at this point. They have taught me so much. They have taught me so much. The level of humility I have simply because of my children is astounding. I fully realize I am not fully prepared for anything. Nobody ever is.
Mm-mm.
That you make mistakes on a regular basis. You cannot control everything around you, but you really work to be able to keep it all going in the right direction, however
Mhm.
much the train may want to derail. And that is, again, one of those things that until you really experience it, there's no way to get that skill.
Mhm.
So they have
Mhm.
been incredibly educational for me.
Yeah. Is your oldest a senior?
No, he is in college now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We both
Okay.
have seniors this year.
Yeah, we both have
Oh.
seniors, so we're navigating that for the first, well, for me for the first time, Jennifer
Yeah.
for the third time.
Riley's my third, so I've already done it twice.
That was a hard place to acknowledge that there was a senior in the house.
Yeah.
I'm struggling.
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
I think, yeah, I think for me, a lot of it is because he's the middle child, but he's, so then the twins are next and they're 13, and like, it just kind of hits me like, oh, we are so close to empty nest. And that is something I've never thought about. Like I've literally we have a retirement plan financially, but I've literally never thought about nobody in the house.
It's, well, you're busy. You're so
Yeah.
busy living it that really looking down the road to when
Mhm.
it's not there
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily come to mind. We had one starting college and one starting kindergarten
Hmm.
at the same time.
Yep.
It
We
was
did.
like
I think
this.
Wow.
my daughter went to college. Our first child, she went to college and the twins were 2. So we weren't at the kindergarten stage yet, but yeah, we
That's
have
close.
that gap too. So yeah, been there, done that.
Then you
So you
understand how educational it is.
Oh yes. My oldest kids are like, I cannot believe you let them get away with it. And I'm like, I'm really sorry, but you guys were the guinea pigs and I was way harder on you than I needed to be. And now I understand that.
I
I
learned.
love you. Please don't hate me.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah. So on your website, you had mentioned something about during the like you were talking about childcare and how to help people with childcare, and you had mentioned that you experienced during the pandemic some issues with like how to navigate that as you know, you and your husband as parents and working, and the childcare centers were closed. So like, can you talk more about that? I'd love to know a little bit more about that.
I think the entire planet, we all struggled for, especially that first year was miserable. But I was pregnant at the time. We actually had our now 5-year-old in August of 2020. So kind of like at the height of everything is on lockdown. And we have the 2 older doing virtual school.
Mm-hmm.
And we have now our newborn who comes into the picture. And we were trying to navigate the situation in which there's just an assumption that you put them into daycare, and I would go back to work at Henry Ford, and my husband would continue with his federal employment. And then when COVID happened, and we started looking for daycare centers, and there was a number of things that we were encountering that were really serious barriers. One is that there was no place with any openings. No place had openings, to the point where there was a childcare center I contacted about putting an application in, and they essentially said, we need childcare workers. And, we always leave open spaces for our employees. So if you want to come work for us, we have some openings, but other than that, we're full.
So change your career so that you can
change
get
your career
childcare.
so you can get the childcare. But that's the only way that we can really accommodate you. So the other was that they were horrifically expensive,
Mm-hmm.
horribly expensive. And it was just kind of ridiculous. We were looking everywhere. We were on dozens of wait lists trying to get in somewhere. And we just had to make a really unfortunate decision. Is I went back to Henry Ford for a period of time, but we also lived an hour and a half away from my work.
Mm,
And we just could not make that work any longer.
Yeah.
So we made the decision that we had not gone into childcare. I could not continue driving back and forth to Detroit. So I had to leave. I had to stay home with our youngest for about a year until we were able to secure a place in a childcare center that we were able to even remotely afford.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So it was painful.
Yeah, and I think that's very reflective of a lot of women in general, but certainly from the effect of the pandemic. So many women either quit, worked from home, whatever, like had to make those hard decisions. And not to take away from the guys, I'm sure there are some guys that also made that choice. My husband, we have talked about this so many times. If he had the opportunity to be the stay-at-home dad and I worked, that would have happened. He just made way more money than me, so that was not really feasible. But
That's
yeah,
practical.
but it's usually the woman that has to make that decision or has to make the sacrifice. And for some, maybe it's not, but they're the ones that have to make that choice.
That was our situation. It's like of the two,
Mhm.
just financially, it makes far more sense
Yeah.
for me to step away from my career. We were fortunate in that after a year, we were able to find childcare and I was able to secure my employment at the VA.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, even then, when you look at the cost of the childcare, we
Yeah.
did the math at the end of the year, after paying taxes and realized that we were paying for the privilege of my working.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, we actually were negative on that I'm I'm not getting paid for my employment. I'm paying to be able to come to work.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
You're paying to keep your career going. For
You're
so many
paying to
women,
keep
that's what
your
it
career
is.
going. That's
Yep.
exactly what it was.
Keep that
Uh,
foot in the door.
we were fortunate that we could make that last, make that work, but there's a lot of people who can't.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah. And I'm having flashbacks right now to just how wild it was to be a parent during COVID. Just no matter how old the children were. I can remember the first couple of weeks seeing people like publishing these elaborate schedules for their kids. Like suddenly, like they're going to be teachers and like 8:15 is going to be Spanish and 8:45 is going to be algebra 2. And like, how are you doing that? I have no idea. Yeah, it was just, and then the whole concept of virtual school, and my son was 11 at the time, and he just
Yeah.
got behind and then
Mhm.
further behind, and I was working and I was actually running a campaign and then working and then all of that stuff. There's nobody like who could monitor his progress, and he got under this mountain that if we hadn't worked really hard to notice it and got him out of it, it would have impacted his whole academic career
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
probably. So we were privileged to be able to like hire a tutor. That tutor, all they did was make sure my son was staying on pace with his virtual school because that's what he needed. But that's a privilege that we were able to pull off that so many other families don't have. I mean, just the whole that whole collective experience that we went
Oh,
through. It
yes.
was a wild time, especially if you were trying to parent during
That
that
was
time.
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah, watching the kids struggle was really hard.
yeah,
Watching them fall behind academically and just emotionally.
yeah.
They were so
Mm-hmm.
isolated. They didn't have the social interaction that they really needed. Yeah, that was a hard time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That
for
was a
sure.
very hard time. Yeah.
For sure.
But thankfully now we can travel wherever we want. So you have been traveling the state for this campaign. And I know that you were in Midland with us this last fall. You were in Saginaw in the late fall, it wasn't quite winter yet. It was still late fall. Um, and then Ottawa County, you were in the summer. I had watched an interview that you gave with one of the Ottawa County Democrats. Um, And Ottawa is a location in Michigan, like for anybody that doesn't know, even though Sarah and I have talked about it, Michigan moved like, what did I say, 5.4 to the right, and the country moved 6.9, or I forget what it was. It was not good, all to the right. And so we've bragged a little bit about the fact that the county of Midland only went like half a point red, and the city actually went a full point more blue. It was already blue. And then Ottawa County was talking about how they went 2 points more blue. Now they're still a red county, but whatever, that is progress,
Yes.
and we're going to celebrate it. So, so what are you seeing in places like Midland and Ottawa and elsewhere that organizers and volunteers are doing to build that blue power? And what would you advise to our listeners to help them do that as well?
This is always one of the most frustrating things for me, because I think that we have a lot of democratic organizations, but we are really struggling to connect with people that aren't already predisposed to leaning that direction anyways.
Yeah.
So kind of, we talked about the echo chamber. Like, it's great that you're here. I love that, but we're not growing. We're just the same people
Yeah.
that are already going to be here anyways. Kind of that outreach, I think, has really been something that we have struggled with. I had a conversation with someone, I believe it was from Cass County, and this is something that I think is really hard for us, especially in the current climate, being so incredibly polarized. But I think one of the number one things that we need to do is really see people for who they are and meet people where they're at. One of the most frustrating things that I see is when you have people who may have been more conservative. Maybe they are fully red, two-time Trump supporters, but they're having hesitation. They're uncomfortable with what they're seeing. And instead of seeing it as an opportunity to connect with someone, to have meaningful conversation, to find common ground, instead, we have a very emotional response, which is understandable, but unhelpful. And there's a lot of lashing out. There is a lot of kind of alienation of people, which, like I said, is understandable from an emotional standpoint, but it's not helpful. And I think one of the most difficult things to do is to kind of let your guard down and meet people where they're at, flaws and all, disagreements and all, is very uncomfortable. But I think right now, of all times, this is the moment that we need to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Kind of put aside our preconceived expectations and really talk to people, understand their true motivations, be willing to kind of embrace them and have those conversations. If they are willing to talk with us about it, great, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. Instead of really pushing them away. The phrase of, we're supposed to be a big tent. So why are we going to exclude people that may be willing to come in and explore us?
Yeah.
So I think that is, again, one of the simplest things that we can be doing, but it's also the hardest to do. And that is, I think, the number one, to really do that outreach, really be making the connections and start shifting things in the direction that we would like to see them shift.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to that. I had a friend, a local friend here, message me yesterday, the day before, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, how can you let that horrible lady on your Facebook and whatever?" It's like, she's always commenting something terrible. And I'm like, that lady nannied my twins and is like the sweetest lady on the face of the planet. And while I very, very, very much do not agree with her political stances, I decided to leave that connection open because I don't want to be in an echo chamber, and I know she is. And if I'm the only way that she's ever going to hear this other side, and she's probably never going to change her mind, but if you don't leave those lines of communication open. Now, I'm not telling people that, like, if they have people that are like toxic in their lives, I get that. But yeah, I'm just leaving it open, and I'm trying to leave it open for other people to, maybe I can do something, who knows.
You never know the impact that you are having.
Yeah.
And well, again, like you said, I understand if there's a situation that is just not healthy for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. I don't think anybody should ever put themselves in harm's way. But if you are being able to keep those lines of communication open, expose them to different ideas, expose yourself to different ideas, really see where people are coming from so that you have a clear understanding to the best of your ability of really what the scope is and what all of the narratives are, so that you can make truly an informed choice and encourage others to do the same. It's hard. It's really hard though.
Yeah, it is,
super
but
hard.
it's very important.
Yeah. And also, like, I think it's what we're talking about is some change management, right? And all change, no matter what it is, creates a level of discomfort.
It is.
And we, in this space, we just have to get comfortable with sitting in a little bit of discomfort and having those things that used to be the end of a conversation, right? Like whether or not what happened in Gaza is genocide, yes or no, that's the end of the conversation. That's the end of our relationship, versus like maybe that's the start of the conversation.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's, and being like having some discomfort and sitting in that conversation. We've had some experiences here locally where groups who are doing activist work and community organizing are, reaching out to sort of younger populations. And we hear all the time, like, why aren't there young people at the Democratic, Party meetings? And why aren't there young people at the chili cook-off? And there's not enough young people. And then the leaders try to move into that space and like create, spaces and opportunities and, events specifically geared to young people. And you notice the discomfort of like, that's not how we do it. That's not the usual way of doing it. That's not what I think we should do. And we have to find like ways to wade through that discomfort, because we have to, if we ever are going to be the big tent that we say we are, and not this like echo chamber that creates all these purity tests that blocks people from being part of what we're doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I have a master's in social work,
Mm-hmm.
and I never in my life thought I would lean on it as much as I am
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah.
But being able to kind of separate yourself from your own biases,
Mhm.
separate yourself from your emotional knee-jerk reactions, to look at it and say, really, where is this person coming from? And then being able to look at yourself and say, why am I reacting the way I am? Those are skills that are really, really hard. But now, of all times, I think is so important that, like you said, we get comfortable with these uncomfortable conversations, with looking at ourselves in very critical ways, and opening the door to people that we may not think that we understand, like, or agree with, to at least just better understand and educate ourselves, regardless of what the outcome is. You're coming from an informed place.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like those skills, the skills that you cultivated and the work you do as a social worker are critical right now in our country and the leadership of our country.
Wish we had more. We need more social workers right
We
now.
need more. We need more social
We agree.
workers in every place possible.
Yeah,
Everywhere.
very much agree.
Everywhere. Well, Rachel, the last question we usually ask is sort of a fun question that just is designed to have folks get to know our guests better from different angle. And so this week's fun question is about spaciousness. So my New Year's intention, not resolution, but intention, is to find places of spaciousness, right? What I mean by that is, we've talked throughout this whole conversation about we're moms, we're in politics or doing work, and it feels like it's either we're doing things or we're thinking about doing things, right? And I don't know about you, either of you, but I find it very rare to have moments where I'm just like I'm loose in the world. Like I don't have there's no shoulds on me. I'm not ticking off a to-do list. I'm not late for a thing. I'm not, you know, ruminating about whatever the next thing is. And I noticed last year when I was in those spaces of spaciousness, I would be like, holy shit, I don't have anything to do right now. It was just like remarkable that I
Yes.
was in those spaces. So this year I am trying to find those spaces more often, recognize those spaces. So the question is, if you had 2 hours of spaciousness, let's say tomorrow, you looked at your calendar, there was something scheduled and like it dropped away, and it was this 2 hour block of time. And you decided, you know what, I'm going to put my to do list away. I'm going to put all the shoulds in the drawer. What would you do with those 2 hours of spaciousness? That's just for whatever you want to do with. It doesn't have to be alone, it could be with people, but like what would you do with 2 hours of spaciousness?
Realistic? Like, could I transport myself somewhere, or like realistic? I
Let's say
still have to be here.
realistic. Like it's
Okay,
you're still in
realistic.
mission. Yeah, you can't teleport. Like you're not invisible.
I was really hoping I could teleport myself someplace that wasn't Michigan right now in January.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I was gonna say, what time of the year are we talking about?
that
Right
is
now,
another
tomorrow.
really good question. So tomorrow, so I am actually a very remarkably introverted person. I have a very hard time speaking in public. I have a very hard time speaking in an unscripted manner like this. It takes a lot out of me. And having small children with the constant chaos and noise and stimulation that comes from them, uh,
Yes.
I operate in a very stressed state most of the time. Um, if I had absolutely 2 hours, I would, it'd be as simple as taking my husband, who also now has 2 free hours, and just sitting on the couch in front of the fireplace with our dogs and read a book. Not not a productive book, not
Yeah.
it's not useful.
Yep.
There's absolutely nothing I am expected to remember or glean out of that book at all. But just to sit and decompress in quiet in a very comfortable, safe space and read something that just allows my mind to kind of escape. It's not fancy,
That sounds
but
You
great.
know,
that
I,
would be
I
it.
I thought about that one because that is one of my favorite things is to read a book and just be in my own home and chill out. And when I had 3 and 5 year olds, that for sure would have
Yes.
been my choice. Spend a little time with my husband, just like no noise. But I think mine would be just find something to do with my boys. I mean, I have 5 kids. Two of them are out of the house. They would be more than welcome to come along for this. But I just would like the 3 boys that are still at home. It feels like we're always going to swim practice, going to swim meet, going to tennis. You know, I have a podcast, I have a meeting, my husband, like there's just always something. And it would be great for us to just chill and have no responsibilities, and I would not be allowed to touch my phone.
Ooh, that would
Definitely.
be fun.
Definitely.
Um, so I think unlike either of you, I would spend those 2 hours by myself for sure. I am also a huge introvert and
I
I
am too.
need to charge my batteries. And I probably would take myself, well, what I would call, my husband and I call it walk the earth. Like I would like put my coat on and go out into the world in my car, go out into the world. I would probably take myself out to some kind of lunch and where I could go wherever I wanted and order whatever I wanted, however much I wanted. And then I'd probably do some secondhand shopping, and just kind of just be like loose in the world for a couple of hours. It sounds like the right use of that time for me.
I used to take myself on dates and do that. I miss that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
I
fun.
forgot that I even
me
did that
too.
now.
I like the walk the earth thing, Sarah. I have always, even from a young age, whenever we would drive anywhere, and I still have this feeling now, like my husband will be driving and I'll be looking out the window at like trees or you're on the expressway and there's stuff far off and I'm like, I kind of just want to stop the car and get out and walk. I just want
Yeah.
to see what's on the other side of that field or the other side of those trees
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that would be so fun.
Yeah. So I
Now I
hope
want like
that
2 hours.
I know, right? I hope that all three of us get those 2 hours sometime in the next week or two. And if you do, just like notice them. Just notice them. Try not to fill them with your long list of things. The list will wait. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us on our pod today. I was curious, do you have a website that you can share or any other ways that you like folks to find out more information?
Yeah, the easiest way is my website at rachelforussenate.org. There is a contact information link on there. It goes directly to me. I answer everything. So if there's questions that people have that aren't answered on there, I'm always open to emails.
I want to compliment you on your website because I really like it. I look at a lot of political websites and I just love the way yours is laid out. It's just simple and easy to use. And anybody that wants to do a political website, I advise you to go look at Rachel's.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot.
Well, thank you again for taking this time in your really busy day, week, year so far, I'm sure. Thank you so much for running and for just sharing your perspectives with us and with our viewers.
You guys, I appreciate the invite and both of you. You guys are so active and involved. I love your perspectives. It's truly a pleasure to be able to speak with you again.
All right, thank
Thanks
you
for
so
being here.
much.
You can listen to the Beyond Resistance podcast on all major platforms. Leave us a review to boost this episode and help us reach more blue dots and red seas. Follow us on social media and like, share, comment to increase our reach. Subscribe to our Patreon and gain access to our private Discord channel and make monetary donations of support through Venmo. You can find all of this and more at beyondresistancepod.com. Beyond Resistance is a Beyond Resistance LLC production. Producers Jennifer Austin and Sarah Schulz. Editing Jennifer Austin. Theme song We Run the Room by Shadow Kitten.